Are you thinking about buying yours first used car? Do you feel excited, nervous, maybe a little overwhelmed? It's totally understandable. Getting a used car can be an experience full of mixed feelings. On the one hand, there is the enthusiasm for independence, freedom of movement, being able to hit the road with your own vehicle without depending on public transport or friends. On the other hand, there is the uncertainty of not knowing if you are investing your money well. Fearing that your car may have hidden faults or that, over time, it may become an expensive and difficult to manage headache. It's a decision that shouldn't be taken lightly. Buying a used car is, in many cases, a great idea. It may be a more affordable option. It allows you to get a model that would otherwise be impossible to purchase new. And if you choose carefully, you can find real automotive gems at reasonable prices. But let's not kid ourselves. The used car market is vast, complex, and full of traps for inexperienced buyers. Sellers, both private and dealers, know the strategies. They know how to make up a vehicle to make it look better than it is, and they understand that many people arrive with little information. If you don't take proper precautions, you could end up with a car that has serious mechanical problems, falsified mileage, a shady history, or confusing legal conditions. The goal of this video is to help you avoid the most common traps. Let's talk about the 10 most common mistakes when buying your first used car. Mistakes made by people who arrive in a hurry, without investigating, without being clear about what they are looking for, or with the wrong idea that anything cheap is a good buy. These mistakes can cost you money, time, and a lot of frustration. The worst part is that they tend to be pretty easy to avoid if you know what to look for and take the time to do things calmly, with analysis and good information. Mistake number 1. Not setting a realistic budget. One of the first big mistakes when buying your first used car is not having a clear and realistic budget from the beginning. Many people go into the market without a maximum spending figure in mind, which makes it easy for them to be seduced by vehicles that are out of their reach or end up spending more than they can really afford. The budget is the financial compass that will guide you throughout the entire process, preventing you from making impulsive decisions. To define a realistic budget, you should consider not only the purchase price of the car, but also the subsequent expenses that will inevitably arise. Think about insurance, maintenance, future repairs, taxes, fuel, and any spare parts the vehicle may need. A used car, no matter how well maintained, may need adjustments over time. There's no point in spending all your initial capital on the purchase if you won't have the funds to keep the car in good condition. Also, it is important to remember that when financing a car, if you do it with credit, do not be carried away by low installments without evaluating the total impact of financing. A monthly payment may seem manageable, but if you add up the interest and the total term, you could end up paying much more. Be realistic about your financial situation and don't get into debt beyond what you can handle comfortably. Mistake number 2. Not researching the right type of vehicle. Another big mistake is not taking the time to research the type of car that really fits your needs and lifestyle. Before you visit dealerships or look at online ads, ask yourself, what will you use the car for most often? You'll use it for short urban trips, long journeys, mountainous terrain, or perhaps a combination of uses. If you have a family, you may need space for several passengers and luggage. If you live in a city with narrow streets, a compact vehicle might be the best choice. Also consider fuel efficiency, spare parts availability, brand reputation, and maintenance cost. Some models require more expensive parts or specialized workshops, which increases costs in the long run. Research the features of different models, read reviews from other owners, and consult trusted mechanics. The more information you have, the more accurate your choice will be. Remember that your first car doesn't have to be the most luxurious or the most powerful. The important thing is that it meets your daily needs and fits your budget. With good research beforehand, you'll avoid regretting your choice a few months down the line because you picked a car that doesn't really fit your situation. This way, you'll set a range of models and types of vehicles to focus on ahead of time, avoiding wasting time on options that aren't right for you. Mistake number 3. Forgetting the importance of the vehicle's history. A used car comes to you with a history. It may have had one or several owners, suffered accidents, major repairs, or more demanding use than normal. One of the most serious mistakes is not carefully checking the vehicle's history before buying it. Having a detailed history report is crucial for assessing the car's actual condition and anticipating potential future problems. In many countries, you can request a vehicle history report through official entities or specialized companies. These reports typically include information about previous owners, mileage recorded during past inspections, accident reports and liens, outstanding debts, and any other incident that may affect the value or performance of the car. If the seller is reluctant to provide this type of information or makes excuses, this is a red flag that you should not ignore. Knowing the history helps you spot mileage inconsistencies, potential frauds such as widespread mileage undercutting, rebuilds after serious crashes, and other details that could affect your purchase. In the end, the history gives you a clear picture and allows you to make a decision with more peace of mind, knowing that the car isn't hiding any unpleasant surprises. Mistake number 4. Not checking the mechanical condition before the purchase. Another common mistake is overlooking a complete mechanical inspection before finalizing the deal. No matter how good the car looks on the outside, you won't know what's hiding under the hood unless an expert checks it out. A trusted mechanic is your best ally at this stage. Their experience will allow them to spot issues in the engine, the braking system, the suspension, the transmission, among other key components. The mechanical inspection must be exhaustive. They should check the condition of the battery, the wear on the tires, the integrity of the chassis, any possible fluid leaks, and the state of the electrical systems. It's also important to lift the car on a hoist to examine its underside, as that's where signs of corrosion, leaks, or other issues that aren't visible at first glance can show up. Even though hiring a mechanic services may come with an extra cost, this investment is extremely valuable. Mistake number 5. Not doing a complete test drive. The driving test is not a mere procedure. It is an invaluable opportunity to feel the car, perceive how it behaves on the road, how the engine, steering, brakes, and suspension respond. Skipping this step or rushing through it is a potentially costly mistake. A vehicle can look perfect in photos and seem great when parked, but once you get it moving, issues that aren't visible at first glance can come to light, problems that aren't noticeable at first glance. During the test drive, pay attention to any strange noises, suspicious vibrations, or delayed responses from the engine. Pay attention to how the steering feels, if the car tends to pull to one side, if the brakes respond firmly, or if you notice any jerking. Also, make sure that all the internal systems are working properly. The air conditioning, the heating, the lights, the windshield wipers, the radio, the power windows, among others. Don't limit yourself to a short tour. Try driving in different conditions. Streets, avenues, if possible, highways, and pay attention to how the car's behavior changes in each environment. If you feel any doubt or discomfort, don't ignore it. This is your chance to really get to know the car and make sure it feels right. If the seller doesn't let you take a test drive or limits you to just a few minutes at low speed, consider this a red flag. Mistake number 6. Getting carried away by just the exterior appearance. It's very common for an inexperienced buyer to be dazzled by the shiny paint, the scratch-free body, and the well-presented interior. But don't be fooled by appearances. A car can look flawless on the outside and be a mechanical disaster on the inside. Aesthetics are important, of course, but it shouldn't be the deciding factor in your purchase. Some sellers invest in a thorough cleaning and polishing before showing the vehicle. This makes it look good, but it doesn't guarantee that the engine is in good condition or that the transmission is running smoothly. They can even cover up minor defects to attract inexperienced buyers. So, don't just trust what your eyes see. As we mentioned before, the mechanical inspection and the test drive are essential. Also, check if the car has been recently repainted. A paint job isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it could indicate that someone wanted to hide damage from dents or corrosion. Look at the seams. Check the doors and hood for subtle differences in paint tone or alignment. In summary, appreciate the aesthetics but don't make it your main criterion, because what really matters is that the car runs well and is reliable in the long run. Mistake number 7. Not taking into account the cost of maintenance and parts. Buying a used car means accepting that, at some point, you will have to invest in maintenance and repairs. One of the most common mistakes is not researching the costs associated with the model you're interested in. Some vehicles require more expensive parts. They have more complex engines or are less common, which makes it harder to find spare parts at reasonable prices. Before finalizing the purchase, Talk to trusted mechanics or look for forums and groups of owners of the same model. Find out what the most common repairs are, the approximate prices of spare parts, and the availability of specialized workshops. If the car is imported and the parts are hard to find, each visit to the shop could turn into an expensive and slow ordeal. On the other hand, some popular models have abundant and inexpensive spare parts, which makes maintenance easier. By including the cost of maintenance in your assessment, you can get a more realistic idea of the true long-term cost of the vehicle. Don't just get carried away by the purchase price. A car that seems cheap can become expensive if you have to invest significant sums in repairs within a few months. A realistic calculation of the total cost of ownership will help you make informed choices and avoid unpleasant surprises. Error number 8. Not checking legal documentation and liens. Never underestimate the importance of the documentation of the car you are going to buy. A common mistake is to overlook checking that the vehicle does not have any outstanding fines, legal blocks, liens, or tax debts. If you don't check these aspects, you might end up, after the purchase, with the unpleasant surprise that the car can't be transferred to your name or that you have to take on someone else's debts. Before closing the deal, request the official vehicle report from the relevant authorities. Check that the vehicle identification number, VIN, matches the one on the paperwork. Make sure the car is in the seller's name or that they have the necessary documentation proving their right to sell it. Don't settle for photocopies of papers. Ask to see the original documents. If you notice inconsistencies, missing data, or detect that the seller cannot justify some legal aspect, be cautious. Legal certainty is essential to avoid headaches in the future. A used car with legal problems may be impounded or, in the worst case, reported stolen. A thorough legal check saves you from problems, and it ensures that the purchase is made with complete transparency. Error number 9. Buy at the first opportunity without comparing offers. Impatience is a bad advisor. A very common mistake is to buy the first car that seems to fit what you are looking for without taking the time to compare several options. The used car market is huge, and chances are there are many vehicles similar to the one you are interested in various conditions and at different prices. Take your time with the search. Compare online listings. Visit different sellers. Attend used car fairs if you can. The more information you gather, the better your ability to understand the true value of the car you are interested in. Look at the offer, the average prices for the same model in similar conditions, and be patient. If you feel like the seller is pressuring you by saying, "This is the opportunity of a lifetime," or "Tomorrow it will no longer be available," don't fall into the trap. Buying a car is a big decision and should not be taken lightly. Comparing several offers will allow you to see the range of prices, the general condition of the cars, and the sales conditions. This way, you'll be able to easily spot if a car is overpriced or if there's one in better condition at a more reasonable price. Plus, knowing the market gives you a stronger position when it comes time to negotiate the final price. Error number 10. Not negotiating the price and the terms of the purchase. Finally, one of the most costly mistakes is not negotiating. Many buyers, especially first-time buyers, feel uncomfortable haggling. However, negotiating is part of the used car buying process. The initial price is rarely set in stone, and the seller usually leaves some room for negotiation. Before starting the price conversation, do your research. Do you know the market value of the model, any repairs you may need to make, and the condition of the vehicle? If you've noticed any minor mechanical issues or the need to change tires, use that information to justify a discount. Keep a polite and respectful attitude, but be firm. You have nothing to lose by giving it a shot. The worst-case scenario is that the seller sticks to their initial price.